I'm about to start listening. Well, I started listening to a video a friend of mine posted. Two guys talking about UFOs. How the U.S. government is announcing that they've had contact with UFOs. And if it wasn't so horrible, it's just ridiculously hilarious that it's 2023 and mostly everybody has no idea whether there are UFOs or not. Even calling them UFOs is lame. To think that there's no other life forms out there except us, or that contact with those life forms is never going to happen. I think in the past history, I think there was more contact with beings, and I think some of them are loving and some of them are nefarious. And I think the U.S. government is probably in contact with the nefarious ones. They're going to create a whole bunch of, I predict. I mean, it's not even a prediction, it's so obvious. They're going to attempt to create a huge amount of drama and crisis and spin. And I think, you've seen programs, if you're into it, where the U.S. government traded resources for spaceship technology so they could build their own fleet, and then they'll launch their own stupid fleet and act like it's not them, and then declare martial law is what you hear. And I totally believe that's their agenda. It makes me sick. When I was little, like really little, I was laying in my bed and there was something on my back in the middle of the night. It felt like somebody sitting on my back, straddling my back. I was lying on my stomach, sleeping, and there was another being. I could tell they weren't human. I had a sense of what they looked like, and like a but like a stereotypical depiction of aliens. I mean, I was very young, so I didn't have much exposure to media about it all. It's my own experience. And they weren't good. They weren't good ones. And they were telepathing me, which is how a lot of beings can communicate, but these ones were definitely communicating that way. And I was frozen in terror. I was absolutely paralyzed in terror. And they were, that's the little boy next door. And they were telepathing me, trying to get me to think that they weren't there, or that I was losing my mind, whatever. And they were telepathing to me, "It's your pillow." Meaning it was my pillow straddling my back. And that helped me come out of my paralysis. And I telepathed back. And it was very difficult. I can remember right now just how difficult it was. And I telepathed back, "I'm lying on my pillow." So how could it be my pillow, right? I only had one pillow. And then lying there, frozen in fear. And finally, I started to recite the Lord's Prayer. And I think I might have done it out loud. Very, difficult getting the words out, but they went away. I, through the years, have seen what I would call UFOs in the sky since I was little. I couldn't prove it, and I could be wrong. Maybe I was wrong every single time, maybe not. So there I was living in Toronto. I was just, freshly 30 nothing. And I had an entire art show stolen out of a place where I was showing my work, but it was like a legal dance club. They had photography there during the day. It was kind of like a speakeasy kind of place. Anyway, I had a big show there hanging up. And the guy who owned the place was from Jamaica, I believe. And how did it go? Okay, so one night, and they were selling liquor there illegally, which I didn't have anything to do with that. But he had a dog, Magic, and he had a daughter, Kaya, who was very young. I don't know, like 5, 6 at the most, I guess, maybe younger. And I was very protective of both of the dog and the girl. I took the dog for walks, and I was with the girl. They had like a bedroom type place in the back with, was it bunk beds kind of? I'm not sure, but I was in there. The whole club was going on, but I was in that room with the little girl. And all of a sudden, the place was raided. And another girl came in, a little tiny black girl, and she was very young. She was probably, I don't know, 16, 17, something like that. I wasn't sure, but because we were hiding in the bed, and we heard the commotion, and she came in. I heard the noise. I didn't feel threatened. And she had all the money. And she hid herself in another part of the room. It was a small room. And I can't remember if I think they came into the room and I was there with the little girl. I'm not doing anything. I'm just with this little girl. And they didn't find the other girl. And when they left, that little girl came out with all the money, and she was just, her fuses were just blown. She was so scared. And then, was it the next day? I was there during the day, and without knocking or anything, this whole team of guys wearing regular clothes, but they had like rifles, and I think they said they were the SWAT team. They just broke the door down. I mean, they could have knocked. We would have opened the door. The door was probably open. They could have, but they made this big display of knocking the door down. And they said, "Grab your things and get out." Well, I had a whole show there. I couldn't grab that. So I left. And the next thing you know, there she is. The next thing you know, oh, she's going in there. Even better. Look at that. It's so pretty. That's what I like to see. The next thing you know, they've locked the place down, and they've taken everything. They've taken everything. They've taken all my paintings. They take all the sound equipment. I mean, very expensive stuff. They took it all. My whole entire show was gone, and it was a big show, lots of portraits. So one woman there, she lived in Roncesvalles, which when I lived downtown, I think I was at Queen and Shaw at the time with my sister and her little kid. I would never go to Ronci. That was just too far. So, but she lived there. She said she was walking by an antique store on Ronci, and all of the stuff, the club was called Cola with a K. All the stuff was in the window. I think there was one of my paintings, there was some sound equipment, some lights, whatever. So I don't recall exactly the sequence, but I got legal aid and went with the lawyer to the store, and sure enough, there were, not all, but there were some of my paintings. A lot of them were just gone, which is to this day lamentable. I did this one piece with my my father's wedding ring, and it was gone. Portraits, a painting I had made for a course in university, and I'd given it to my sister, quite a large painting, and it was the whole painting was pretty much my course credit, so I'd spent ages on it. She loved it, and that was gone. And then there was some framed pieces where the glass was broken, and the guy told the lawyer that he got a call and said, come take all this stuff for $300. This was in 1990, I want to say. And so he did. He didn't ask questions. Well, the guy they ended up arresting him, and I don't know what happened to him. They told me that the people who did this crime had QC lawyers, which are Queen's Counsel lawyers. I don't think they have them anymore. Queen's Counsel, meaning whatever, fancy. You weren't going to win is what it meant. And they were offering me $1,000 nuisance fee. And that was the best I was going to get. And my friend called me from Reno, and she said, come to Reno. And I thought my sister was moving back in with the father of her child, so that was over. All my work was stolen. So I had a sale. I gave away everything I owned, but with my paintings, I had a sale, and I did sell quite a few pieces at very, very not expensive prices. But I did make some money so I could head out. A friend of mine drove me to Reno, and we stopped off in Minneapolis because I'm a huge Prince fan. And look at her. Excuse me. Yeah, we danced in his club. I don't remember where we stayed, if we even stayed. I don't know. I don't remember. But I surely remember dancing in his club. Glam Slam. I had a great time. And then we headed off to Reno. My friend had a store there called Art Dogs and Grace. and her parents had money and they funded her store and they funded all the materials she needed. So she had sterling silver and semi-precious stones. I had been making jewelry through school and selling it on the street, actually. So I had developed some jewelry making skills, and when she let me loose in her store, I could produce. I went crazy. I was a machine. I just made tons of jewelry. Reno is a very hard place for an illegal alien because it's a gambling town. It's a small town. So I was having a hard time making money. The Via train Amtrak in the U.S. turns into Via once it hits Canada, had a special going. I don't know if it was for like people under a certain age or something like that. They had a special going where you could make 2 stops within a year. So I figured I didn't want to go back to Toronto. So meanwhile, because I was subscribed to Prince's, he used to have like a magazine that came out once a month. And I subscribed to that. And it said that he was having an art gallery in his club, in the VIP lounge, the upstairs lounge. And if you wanted to be have a show, contact blah blah. Before I left Toronto, this is back when you did slides, I did a trade. I did all kinds of trades, but I did a trade for slides. So I had some slides, and I made some prints. Yeah, I made some prints, and it was very expensive to make good prints. And I sent them to Glam Slam or to whoever the person was, and I didn't hear back, and I was freaking out because, I mean, give me an answer, send me my images back, whatever. And then I finally got through to somebody. I think her name was Satara, and she said, Prince has your images with him in Germany. He's on tour and he really likes your work, and yeah, you could have a show here, and if you're ever in Minneapolis, give me a call. So my plan was, I knew I had to leave Reno, so my plan was to get a train ticket that went Minneapolis and then try my luck there, see what I could do. And if that didn't work, go to Vancouver, because I didn't want to go back to Toronto. And I figure if I go to Vancouver, I'm still Canadian. I can get welfare, worst case scenario. I knew I just didn't want to go back to Toronto. And so I did that. So I land in Minneapolis. I can't reach this woman. This back, phone book and payphone. I can't reach her. And I'm literally homeless the first night. Wait, because I have to tell you this. Before I left, a friend of my friend, that's my other cat. What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? Gotta get this cat in the picture. Hi. Hi, Baba. Bit of coffee. Yeah, so before I left, a friend of my friend, she was kind of like like an Indiana Jones kind of woman. You know, she could drink a lot and she was tough as shit. And she said, come to Pyramid Lake. Come to Pyramid Lake, and they've got caves there. We'll spend the night in the caves. I've done it before. So I said, okay. I love Pyramid Lake. It's a very magical place. And I trusted her. You know, I knew she knew what she was doing, even like a wild woman, but I knew I'd be okay with her. So we went and we had this whole thing, which was amazing. Another story. Okay, so now I'm in Minneapolis. Yeah, I'm in Minneapolis, and I'm homeless. Another story. The next day I get into a shelter, which was great. And then I get in touch with this woman, and long story, I'm illegally in the country the whole time. I end up with 3 jobs in the restaurant business, and I have a show in Prince's Club, and one of my pieces is stolen. Right in the, like when you come into the, when the club used to be there, you'd come up the stairs and there'd be like a reception kind of desk. And behind the desk was one of my pieces, quite a big piece, probably 24 by 36 type of thing, stolen. But the thing is, I was really poor, and I had signed a paper. There was some kind of insurance, you know, because it's Prince's Club. I think I got, I don't know, just like $250 or something, $250 for the piece, which was the price I had it set at. And I needed that money, so that was good. I got involved on stupid me. I got involved with a crack addict. I didn't know anything about crack. Thank God I never took it. And that was just terrible. I mean, just a terrible experience. He stole all my stuff. I would go to these meetings, right? 12-step meetings. And one of the jokes was, what's the difference between an alcoholic and a crack addict? I don't know what. An alcoholic will steal your stuff, and a drug addict will steal your stuff and help you look for it. Well, I couldn't laugh because that's exactly what happened, you know? You sure you left your Walkman on the bed, baby? He stole everything from me. And so my friend called me from Reno, and she said she'd met this guy. She's like, look, I'm moving to New Mexico, and to this property. It's got an apple orchard and a couple of adobes and a main house. So if you come to Reno and help us with the move, then you can stay in one of these adobes for free and paint. So I said, okay. I mean, it was getting dangerous. I was working illegally, but I had an apartment, but being with this crack addict was it was getting crazy. And so I gave away most of my stuff. I took my paints and some canvases and headed out to Reno again. A friend drove me. No, I flew this time. A friend drove me the first time. No, I flew. I had my paintings in the bottom of the plane. And just some clothes. So when I get there, my friend, so we're gonna pack her place up and we're gonna drive to New Mexico. So we're not gonna be in Reno long. So she said, before we go, I want to camp out at Pyramid Lake. And we'd gone there one day during the day, and they have like what's it called? You know, where there's, springs. There's like springs, and there's like this mud, because it's volcanic ash there. It's a volcanic location. And you put this black mud all over you, and then you go into the what's called a dead lake, Pyramid Lake, and wash it off, and it's amazing. We did that. I loved it there. I really love Pyramid Lake. Very magical place. A lot of people were scared of it. You'd see like cars at the side of the road with the doors all open. Like, it was a very weird place. It had all kinds of lore about it. Say that's where water babies came from. Another story. So she said she wanted to camp. Not in a cave, just to camp. No tent. And I was like, I did not have a good feeling about it. She was a speed freak at the time. She's not anymore. And I did not have any confidence in her as far as survival skills. She was not Indiana Jones in the least. So I didn't like the sound of it. She really wanted to go. I said, all right, but there's going to be one condition. I said, if I say we have to leave, then you can't fight me on it. And I'll only say it if I really feel it strongly. Then we'll leave. She said, okay. So we ended up getting there late. The sun was already going down. And where we planned to go, so you're driving like, I don't know, 20 miles on unpaved road. She's got a little Honda Civic already, got lots of kilometers on it. And we rock up finally to where we think we're going to be. Now, in Pyramid Lake, they have what's called tufa. And tufa, Tufa, is volcanic rock, and it's very airy and amazing. I just adore it. And it made these huge, really, really tall, 7 stories coming out of the ground, all irregular and with holes in them and stuff. And those are where the caves are, actually. And so we get to where we think we're going to stay, and there's a pickup truck there with 2 yahoos drinking beer. And I was like, no. No, keep driving. So we go around the tufa, and we're on, I guess the lake kind of wraps around. And we're on like the other side. It's complicated. We make a fire. They can't see us is the main thing. I don't want them to be able to see us. We make a fire in the middle, and then her sleeping bag. So here's the fire, and my sleeping bag is here, and hers is this way. So we're like an L with our heads together. And all of a sudden, I wish I could just show you a picture so I wouldn't have to try to explain it, but everything changed. That's what happened. Very, very definitely everything changed. We'd smoked a little weed, and I'm very sensitive, so I was like so high. And I had this hope that like God, who would look like Prince, just will come on a horse and come and do something really amazing and magical. Come. That's what I was hoping. But it was very sinister. It was actually a very sinister vibe. Without going into too much detail, because I don't think I can really describe it, but just everything was so different. And I was smoking cigarettes at the time. I was smoking Newports. The wind is changing. The light is changing. There's like formations. the whole telepathy thing was starting that I had experienced when I was little. And my sleeping bag, which I wasn't in, it was just on me, literally picked up off me, moved over, and fell on the fire. And I was like, holy shit. Like, that was just some weird shit. It literally came up off of me, moved over to the fire, and dropped on the fire. Well, I got it out of the fire before it burned. But the minute I kind of got up on my knees, the whole everything is different became intensified, like 100-fold. Like, weird to absolutely insane. I said, oh my God, Lee, we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go. She wasn't experiencing it. So she was kind of like talking me down, like, no, it's okay. It's just the wind, whatever. I forget what happened. Something happened, but she had to get up just to her knees. And as soon as she did, she said, holy shit, we gotta get the fuck out of here. So we just grabbed everything. We raced to her little car. And I thought, oh my God, I've left my cigarettes there. Well, that's no time to be worrying about cigarettes. You know that voice. That awful voice. And she tosses my cigarettes into my lap. And I was like, yay. So we drive around. Look, I'm not making this up. And I just had a few hits of weed. I'm just really sensitive, but I wasn't like on psychedelics or, you know. This really happened. And it just gets weirder. So we round the corner where these yahoos were, and this is what we saw. Their pickup truck, you know, here's the pickup truck, back end, front end, is up. It's on fire. It's standing on its front end. The wheels are facing us, and the whole thing is on fire. Then, to either side, like in a V formation, it's hard to do this. So, oh my God, like I'm right there. Why can't you see my fingers? So, let's say that light is the pickup truck. So it's on fire. One guy is here. It's so disoriented because it's reverse. That's why I'm having a hard time. One guy's here, and they're both on fire. But I mean on fire, the fire is like this, like so much taller than them. They're literally fucking on fire. And so it's kind of like we're rounding on the main road and they're off on a little tiny fork in the road, I guess. And I'm just thinking, Lee, don't try to, come on. Don't try to help them, you know? Oh, there she goes. So she doesn't, thank God. Now, it's not paved, right? It was just a stone road. And the thing is, the light is so different. There's lights flashing. There's literally things growing out of the ground that aren't earthly, like weird shaped things. You've never seen anything like it. And all of a sudden, she gets a flat tire. She gets a flat tire. We're being chased by bad aliens. Oh my God. Well, I just shut down. I was in the passenger seat, and I couldn't move. I just couldn't move. I was absolutely terrified we're gonna die. I'm gonna die tonight. And the thing is, there was like a force field pulling us, and the whole thing was come this way. And I'm sitting there terrified, and my friend says, if I'm going to die tonight, I'm going to die using my will. and she gets out of the car. She goes to the back of the car, and she gets out like the spare tire and the jack and whatever. She comes around the tire that blew was it the front tire? I think it was the front tire, yeah. On my side, passenger side. And she puts the jack underneath, between the front and the back door of the car. And I don't know how I knew this, but I just said, that's wrong. That's like really wrong. That's not where the jack goes. And I snapped out of it. I snapped right out of it. And I was just full throttle. I'm going to change this fucking tire. And so I get out. I take over, as I can do, if anyone who knows me. Let me do it. Let me do it. Let me do it. So I'm reading the instructions because I don't know how to do it. I'm reading the instructions. Thank God they had some. I put the jack in the right spot, and then I'm trying to get the lug nuts off, and I'm having an epiphany within this crazy thing where, you know, men, they're so strong and they can change a tire. I realize that what you need when you put the wrench or whatever it is called on the lug nut and you have to loosen it, it doesn't take strength, it takes strategy. So I'm sitting in the seat somehow and I'm using my boot to kind of push the wrench or whatever, and it wasn't strength, it was strategy. And it was just this funny moment where I was having kind of a consciousness evolutionary process while I'm, you know, feeling like we're gonna die. So behind us is a huge tufa, very, very tall, and at the top of it are two little lights that does look like a car, and they're telepathing. Okay, first of all, I knew that if I gave any part of me to them, like if I got curious, if I was like, just let me look, or let me hear what they're saying, that they would, I'd be gone. That's all it took. I knew this intuitively. Like that's all it took was for me to show any kind of movement toward them and they'd have me. So of course I wasn't going to do that, but they're battling with me telepathically, and they're saying, and you know, it's that voice, that bullying voice. It's so mocking. They're saying, oh, it's just a car. It's just a car. Granted, it looked exactly like a car. But if you saw a tufa, how does a car drive up something so slender and so tall and so lumpy? There's no way a car could drive up it. So again, I had to use my common sense to keep me like not believing them, not moving towards their telepathic madness. Finally, I changed a tire. And so now we're driving, and she's like, no, first of all, we both scream at the exact same time. Like we both got touched or something like that. We both absolutely scream at the exact same time. And then the next thing, she's saying to me, what happened? We were still on the unpaved road. I said, Lee, it's not over. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And you could feel the car wanting to be pulled back. Like they had such a way of magnetizing us to them. It was that powerful. And finally we get on the highway and we start ascending up the hill, going back to Reno, and all of a sudden the car like kind of like, and we were free. And it was the freakiest, horriblest thing. It took me ages to get over it. I was so shook up. I was so sure I was going to die. All right, so this is getting long, but I'm going to go ahead and say the next part, because look at this beautiful divinity. What the hell is that? Sun's going down, so I'll just say this next part. So I didn't talk about this much because look how long, it's a long fucking story. And who's going to believe me, right? So I didn't really talk about it. But I moved back to Minneapolis. I got a show at Glam Slam, and so I went back to Minneapolis. I left Reno, and no, I left New Mexico. So I was in New Mexico, yeah. I mean, it was great. I lived in that adobe for a while. I did a lot of painting, but, I was dependent on them, and that wasn't good. So I got a show in Minneapolis, and my friend said I could come and live with her for not that much money. And so I did. I went back, and I had a show with my friend. We were both in the show. And that's when the piece was stolen. So I could have mixed up that's when I had the show. That's when the piece was stolen. And because from there I went to New York. So, okay, so I have a show at Glam Slam. I'm working at a bar, Bunkers, if you know Minneapolis, great bar. One night a week. I'm painting all the time. My friend I can make the money she wants working one night at this bar. I think it was like $100 or something. And I'm pretty happy. And so then my friend who I had the show with said, let's go to New York. I had a friend living in New York. I could provide us, because we could stay with him, so I could provide the place. She's going to provide the air ticket. Great. So go to New York. And we were there for a week, and in that week I was offered a job. I was offered an apartment in Gramercy Park. Some woman in banking who worked for JP Morgan, she wanted all these paintings of mine. She's going to pay like good dollars. I was like, holy shit, here we go. And so I called up my friend, and I called up the job and said, I'm not coming back. And great. I borrowed $300 from my job to go to New York. And I ended up paying them back. So I was homeless in New York. Other story. Meanwhile, I finally figured things out. I was living illegally there, but I finally figured things out as far as taking care of myself so I could paint. I was waitressing. I get home from work one night, and there's a message on my phone, and it's from my friend who we went through this alien experience with. And she left a message on my phone saying, someone wrote a song about you. I know it's about you because they say your name. And they talk about Pyramid Lake. I never heard of them. I had to call the radio station, and they said they're called Blue Radio. Well, it's actually Blue Rodeo, but what do they know in Nevada? And I didn't hear this song. Oh, because I'm missing telling you all this. Okay, back it up. So I'm in New York, and I see this band, Blue Rodeo, is playing in Minneapolis. And they're opening for Lucinda Williams, who I also liked. And I'm working at the bar, and I think I had two jobs then. And so I'm working at the bar, and I missed the opening act. I wanted to go. I thought my sister knew them from the Horseshoe Tavern before they were famous. It was a drinking tavern. My sister loved to drink. They loved to drink. I thought she knew them, and I just wanted someone to talk Toronto. I was missing it. I hadn't been back in like 3 years or something. I just wanted to hear some street names. And anyway, so when I got to the show, I missed the opening act because I was working. So I saw a guy. I'm like, oh, he's a roadie. So I said, look, you know what? My sister knows the band. He's like, yeah, come with me. And he brings me on the bus, the Blue Rodeo bus. They never heard of my sister. They didn't know what I was talking about. But I connected with Greg, one of the main guys, and I said, I have this show. Let's go see my show. So we go to the show. We were both smoking at the time, and you could smoke in the club then. So we're upstairs. It was a Tuesday night, and it was dead. There was nobody there. It was just me and him sitting. And this is a guy who is really tuned in. You can talk about all kinds of stuff with him, which is rare for me to find somebody who I can really talk comfortably with without being like, why are you so weird or whatever. And I was having a great time. I ended up telling him the story, and it's a long story, and he was really keen to listen. So I told him. He bought a slice of pizza and got back on the bus, and that was it. Okay, so now I'm getting a phone call from my friend after work one night, and she's like, blah, 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 Blue Radio. I didn't hear the song. Then my other friend who I had the show with, she calls me from Minneapolis, and she's like, all right, I have the song, I'm going to play it for you. And I was like, no, don't play it. I don't want to hear it. I don't know why. I just didn't want to hear it. So then I was at work, and I worked close to Bleecker Street, which I don't know now, but back then it used to have a lot of like used record stores and stuff. So I went into one, I got a tape. So I bought the tape, lying on my bed, listening to the tape. Is this the song? Is this the song? Oh, this song's good. I hope this is the song. Then my song came on, Cynthia, and I just started to cry. I had a full-on temper tantrum. I was on my stomach, and I was kicking and screaming. Somebody wrote a song about me, and it's country, and I hate it. I hated the song. I hated the song. So, that's a pretty profound... he changed the lyrics. He said he was trying to make like a Rory Gallagher song. He changed it into like a love story kind of thing. Nothing like what actually happened, but it was pretty flattering. I did another story about me, connecting with the band after that, but back on topic is... if you've seen Unacknowledged, that guy, he's an ER doctor. I always forget his name. David something. Amazing guy. Love his work. And of course, To Ride a Pale Horse, that guy got killed. His whole story. So my hope, this is my hope, okay? They got this evil plan to launch their own battleships, really, because they're not alien, and they're connected with the wrong crowd from other dimensions, unfortunately. But one scenario I have is, what about they launch these, they call martial law, everyone's freaking out like you see in the movies, they're getting their way, they're owning everything. Fucking motherfuckers, literally. And then good ships, good aliens come and just suck them up. And then we get to live on Earth as Earth was intended, green grass, blue sky, all the loving cultures, like when the Euro first showed up here in North America. The First Nations here were so highly civilized. There was peace for miles and miles and miles. And we got to figure out a way to get back to that. So, that's my story.